tomorrow. So we're holding, in the Maamar, let's bring up the page. Hold on. Okay, we're holding Ubir Inyan. So we're talking before about the idea of in the idea of connecting the chesed and gevurah together by the night of the Seder is done physically, and then it is mislabish, it doesn't clothe itself when we eat the three matzahs, which represent chesed, because chesed is humility. In order to properly help someone else, you need to get yourself out of the way, which is represented by the matzah. And the yayin, wine, the 4 cups of wine represents gevurah, just the idea that wine itself, the effect the wine has on a person, as well as the coloring of the wine is red. And that's the level of gevurah, and we have together the matzah and the yayin together at the Seder is that we're combining the idea of the chesed and gevurah together. Just a small note, famous story of the famous chesed, Rebbe Lepkler, that's how you pronounce his name, that he was a chesed of the Alter Rebbe and later of the Mittel Rebbe, it's a Tzedek, and I think he even was sat by the Rebbe Marash. He lived very long. He had a bracha of Rikus Yom by the Alter Rebbe. So he once came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and it was custom the Tzemach Tzedek would send to the elder Chassidim and special elder Chassidim like Rabbi Kusil was matzah stuff for the starim. So he sent a package like matzah, maror, wine, the things that were for the Seder. So he sent it with a gabbai. The Tzemach Tzedek sent it with a gabbai to Rabbi Kusil. And I believe he was either sleeping or he was sitting in the shul, and the Gabi came in and said, "Here's from the Rebbe for the Seder." And he said it was for the Seder. Didn't say it was for the Seder, but it was obvious it was for the Seder, that he should be able to have the necessities for the Seder. And evidently, Rabbi Kusil was offered by the Alter Rebbe bracha for a shiras. He didn't want a shiras. He didn't want wealth. So Rabbi Kusil was such a chassid that when he gets a package from the Rebbe, he didn't ask any questions. He took the matzah, the maror, and the wine, mixed it all together, and ate it right away. Because if he has something he's given from the Rebbe, he's not waiting till tomorrow and eat the matzah separately, the wine separately, the mar separately. He made all one big mush, one big mix, and ate it all right away. So here we have a chassid who took both the idea of chesed and gevurah with the mar and put it down together as one. Okay. Ubir Inyan, the idea is like this. Dehine, kshem sha'matzah is inyan chsadim kanal. Just like we mentioned before, the matzah is chesed. K'moiken he gam poyeles ha-mitzvahs ba'avodah. In Yedua, Shematzehi, sorry, again, the Hinik Shamatze is in Yom Chosadim, Kmoikein he gam poyeles, Gamkein, sorry, Kmoikein he gam poulas hamatzes bavoida. So to what matzes, sorry for the reading here, that the effect of matzes in avoida is also chesed, meaning, the Hinidu, it's known, Shamatzehi michel demei menusa. Matzah is food of emunah. It's brought down, it's mentioned many times in Chassidus, that a child can't really properly identify his or her father until he tastes the taste of grain. You don't say father until you taste the taste of grain. But once the child tastes the taste of grain, bread, then he or she could identify what it means, a concept of my father, right? A kid that has a natural instinct that this is a parent. How do you know it's a parent? You have to first taste tam dogan. That's what's brought down in Chazal. This is used all the time for the idea of matzah, why we eat matzah as we're children, which are just born as a nation. And when we taste the taste of the matzah, we can already identify who our father is. That's the idea of amunah, belief. It's not because when the child eats bread, it's either a sign that he or she has accomplished a certain level of understanding, of reasoning, of logic, or because the bread itself gives logic. It's not a logical idea. It's that once you taste bread, then it gives a connection to identify there's a concept of a parent, and this is my parent. And therefore he could call his father, she could call the father. It's not that the child has a better, deeper understanding. What does it mean, a parent? But the connection, knowing, whatever it is, this instinct that the child knows, this is my parent, and this is the person who could take care of me, and therefore calls out with a tremendous desire, want, and urgency, is not because it's based on logic, but once they taste the taste of dagan, of grain, they can identify a parent. The child almost puts his life into his call for the child. That's the effect of matzah. It's a food of amunah. Just like a child who doesn't know what it means, a parent logically, but once you start eating the foods of grain, it gives you this instinct, so to say, of this is my parent. So too, when a person eats matzah, then especially like I said before, the Jewish people coming out of Egypt are like children. Like we said before, I think we went to last Maamar that the idea that God called him Livni, the child, is we learned in the Maamar that from a Ve'era is has an understanding of godliness, not because you understand godliness, but you have amunah. It's a food of amunah. It gives not in a way of logic or illogical or unidentified, so to say, idea that you know this is God, this is my God. When the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim, the Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim, they still were in the level of Katnas Abba as children. They had a small level of Chachma. Katnas Abba means no very small Chachma understanding. They come like Harimun, he b'tayik God Almighty, but they had total belief in God. They didn't have an understanding of God; they had a belief in God. It's different when someone's calling out spiritually to a father or calling out in a physical way. For a child to know this is his parent or her parent, just taste the grain. You taste the grain and you could have that instinct. Doesn't make a difference if it's the grain is matzah or anything else, or even chametz. Doesn't say anywhere that the child has to eat matzah specifically. The child can eat chametz also, can eat bread. Bread is chametz, it's leavened bread. As long as he tastes the taste of grains, there's a idea, the knowledge or the understanding, this is my father. Why? Again, doesn't have to make sense. Same thing, but when spiritually, like it says, the tree of knowledge was chita. It's an opinion that it was wheat. So wheat gives knowledge. Not comprehension that you understand the depth of it, but you know this is where it is. Like das is connection. You connect to your parent. As in an idea, the taste of the grain starts to give an understanding. This is my parent, or a recognition, I should say. This is my parent. Hargasha, the feeling. This is my parent. That's physical, but it's spiritual. The idea is that you're recognizing, you're seeing godliness, like the belief a Jew has. Or just whether it's to see godliness or to recognize godliness. If it's just a belief in godliness. We know the merit of our belief is why we left Egypt. Then you can't just taste any kind of grain. And it has to be unleavened bread, matzah. The matzah in Yonah, because in order to give the recognition of God, it's not just that you taste the grain, you have to taste the unleavened grain, a matzah, a bittul, a food of humility. Matzah nasis mimayim b'kemach. What is matzah made of? Of just water and flour. The mayim yordim migavoy lenamach, like water goes from a high place to a low place. Gama kemach union hachasadim gevurah makamach. The Rebbe says it's explained other places that the white flour also represents chesed. So just like the matzah is chesed, it brings the person to chasadim, which is amunah, belief in Hashem. So too when it comes to the 4 cups. Just like we said before, wine is gevurah. It also affects the person in a way of gevurah. And this is the idea that the matzahs are biblical. They rise and chachma nafkas, like we know that the chachma Torah is chachmas Hashem. The Torah comes from the chachma of Hashem, which is therefore it's biblical because that's the representing the chesed of Torah. Torah's chesed. Is him b'nirabanan, and the 4 cups are rabbinical. Shebeklas huinin Torah Shvat, which is the rabbinic Torah, is the oral Torah. The Torah Shebeksav, Torah Shvat, him chachma bina. We know that the written Torah and the oral Torah represent wisdom and understanding. Like it says, "Hear my son Musa Avicha," which is talking about Torah Shebeksav. Al tita should not leave Torah Semecha, which is Torah Shebal. Musa Avicha, Torah Shebeksav, Shivachim Chacham, which is wisdom. But Torah Semecha, which is Torah Shebal, the oral Torah is being understanding. Chachma bina him basic chasadim gevurah. Like I said before, Chachma is chachan, Chachma chesed netzach is the side of chasadim, and that's Torah comes from chesed. Torah is chesed. And Torah Shvat Peh is the gevurah. That's what it's all the rules of Torah. It means if you look at Torah Shvat Ksav, you don't see so much the dinim, but the dinim of Torah comes from the side of bina, which is bina, gevurah, and hoid, which is on the left side, which is gevurahs. But Torah Shvat Ksav is the zer ampin, is the small complexion, and roiv of zah is chasadim. Torah Shvat Peh is bechinas malchus. And like I said, zah, most of the small complexion, which is made up of all the midas, but its general tilt is towards chasadim. Malchus is b'chav gevurah. King is gevurah, right? The king gives fear and awe of his subjects. And that's why we said before that, unlike before, we said that when the plague of the firstborn happened, that the chasadim and gevurahs came in to bring healing to the Jewish people from the rachmim and chesed from Abaya, the idea of beis dinoi, which is gevurah is to punish the Egyptians, and it only was through Ma'aver, only passed through Malchus. But when it comes to the mitzvahs of Hayoim, the mitzvahs of Pesach, it's in a way of Islapshus to enclose in the concepts of chesed and gevurah, becomes part of the person. The Kibbutz Shematzis of Kaisis Union avoided Torah mitzvahs because it represents our service of Torah mitzvahs. That through chesed we have through the matzahs it brings us to Torah's chesed, which is Torah, and through the wine we get to Torah Shvat Peh, which is gevurah. This is God's will. Then it has to come in clothing. It's not about punishing. It's not a setting of the world. This is the kavanah. The kavanah ikris, and we wanted to get tangible with godliness is in Torah mitzvahs. Because it's from God's will of Torah mitzvahs, therefore it's able to come in a way of hislapshus and enclose itself, even though we said generally the way in Seder Shtalshus it cannot be mislabish chesed and gevurah, but that's in Seder Shtalshus and creation of the world. But Torah mitzvahs overrides that system. A, like we said before, it doesn't break the kelim, and B, it doesn't get limited by the kelim. That's the idea of the kol yachol, like we said about in the Beis Hamikdash. Doesn't get affected, even though it's mislabish. We said, like I said, we said yesterday, we were concerned that if it would be mislabish in Seder Shtalshus for the way God would punish the Egyptians and sort of say heal the Jews, then it would be affected by the kelim or break the kelim. But when it comes to Torah mitzvahs, it's so hard that it's able to come into the world in a way of mislabshus and not get affected, like the idea we said before, Kol Kadashim, where God is there in the Kol Kadashim with his limitations. Why? Because Kol Yachol, God can do anything. The way God is as is. Now, we obviously will finish the Maamar. We have a little bit left. So he finishes off the Maamar. It says, it's trying just as we left the days that we left Egypt. I read in a clause, so too when Mashiach comes, we're going to see wonders. Mashiach comes in the future, Lavoi, which is the future is any second. Then the light that's beyond Ishtalshus is going to come down to this world. Like we said before, it's the power that's midnight, that's beyond both chesed and gevurah. Is going to come down, not just in a way of ma'aver, but also in the slavish. It's going to enclose itself in the geula. The Rebbe says more than that. Like the Rebbe many times explained that the idea of a renu neflois means we're going to see wonders. It's not just that we're going to see wonders, but it's going to be wonders compared to the miracles of Egypt. Just like we said by the night of Pesach, that it was the combination of chesed and gevurah, and because it comes from a higher power. Still comes in a way of lines into or. And when it says that God himself came and redeemed the Jewish people, it's talking about Tiferes HaNelam, the hidden, which is, or the Malchus Vein Seif, but still within the Seder Shtalshus. Then it's not going to be a high level of the essence, but it's going to be beyond, so to say, the high level of the manifestation, the way Hashem's in the world, but it's going to be higher than any kind of description of Kavim, of the line of Chesed, line of Gevurah. The essence itself will be revealed with the coming of Mashiach from here remain. It's not going to come in derech maver. It's not just going to be derech makiv. It's going to come in islabshus and in the neifin of pnimi, internalizing it. And how do we get ready for Mashiach? Is when we do Pesach that we're supposed to. And on Pesach itself, like we said, we have the gimel matzahs and dal kaisis, and that is also in a way of islabshus, that Hashem is mislabish in the mitzvahs of matzah, the mitzvahs of kaisis, of the 4 cups of wine. Shem Keneged Gimel Abbas with Aldi Mois that represent the 3 fathers and the 4 mothers. through the fathers and mothers. That's what helps us and starts the path of the getting ready for the redemption. Like it says, God is going to lift his hand over the river. He called the Shiva Nacham. It's going to be divided into 7 paths, 7 streams. The Shiva Nacham, the 7 streams are connected. Gimel Hamatzas Dal Kaisis represent the 3 matzahs and the 4 cups, or the 3 fathers and the 4 mothers. So again, the father is always chesed tradition, even though Yitzchak himself is gevurah, but the father is chesed and the mother is gevurah. That's traditionally the rule. But that's why in the Torah of Tazria, the Alter Rebbe says that the fact that a mother is sometimes less disciplinarian than the father is not because the mother has kindness, because it actually comes from gevurah. It comes from almost a disregard, where sometimes the father's harsh discipline actually comes from Ava, comes from love. So says the Alter Rebbe, I believe in Tazria of Torah or Likutei Torah. Sorry, Hiratze may be Hashem's will. They avoided the matzahs v'koisis. That when we actually get ready for Pesach now, we're learning about it this week of the matzahs and the cups. We should be able to fulfill the promise, and it shouldn't have to wait till Pesach. Like the Rebbe always said, L'shana haba means by next year. That we should see, we should go out of Egypt, like in the days of Egypt, we should go out, this colors. I read in a plus in a way of wonders. We should see the essence, there should be revealed the essence of God. Even harder than we said before, which means Peres Hanelem or Malchus of Ein Sof, which is all high levels of Seder Shtalshlus. The Etzim or should come down in a way of enclothment, in a way of pneumis, internalized. I day David Malcolm Shicha through the David and Mashiach, from here remain us be in our time. Again, I think next week we're not going to do Basidogani. As Hashem, I think we're just going to learn the Farbrengen of Yud Shvat Tavshin Chavav. Slowly, amazing Farbrengen. We'll go slowly through it, Sicha by Sicha. Hopefully, we'll finish by Yud Shvat the Farbrengen. That's, I think, the plan. All right, Yom Tov.